S.H.Figuarts Dragon Ball Z Dodoria was released on the 22nd of February as a premium Bandai web exclusive and retails for 7,700 yen or 78 US dollars if you pre-ordered through the premium Bandai US site. As always, this is the Japanese release, as I live here in Japan, but the US release should, and I say should, because I know Tamashii US have been held up on shipping recently on a lot of releases, so if things go smoothly, US orders should ship out in March. Wow, just look at this beast of a figure. Dodoria is finally here, one of two of Friez's personal enforcers, the other being Zarbon, of course, which is set for an April release. And, well, I don't want to sound anticlimactic, but after getting him in hand, Dodoria's overall proportions kind of threw me off a bit, and I want to be extremely clear that this is not a complaint about the figure, but after years of watching Dragon Ball Z, a 2D animation, and to finally get this character in 3D form, I don't know, I guess I always imagined or thought Dodoria to be a bit more spherical, I guess, if that makes any sense. I'm sure this is accurate to how he is in the anime, but I don't know, I've always thought Dodoria was a bit more evenly circular. It just caught me off guard on how flat he was when you look at him from the side. Either way, like I said, he is big, he is bulky, not the tallest out of the bunch, standing about a head above Goku, not including Goku's hair. There's a nice heft to the figure, and kind of reminds me of Buu, where the torso is hollow inside, but the legs are nice and solid, giving him a lower center of gravity, which makes balancing this big guy so much more easier. Still, because of Dodoria's design and having his legs so far apart, he's not going to be the most agile of all figures. If you have any of the Ginyu Force figures, this kind of feels like that. The proportions, again, look spot on, I mean, from the front, and I'm sure they are at every other angle. Man, I just have to go back and rewatch some Dodoria scenes. But I think Tamashii really captured Dodoria's unique design in plastic form. The sculpted details are fantastic, especially with the head. Again, Tamashii are just on point when it comes to the newer, more anime-inspired head sculpts. There is just so much character and expression, and a lot of that has to do with Dodoria's character design, which has to be one of the most unique characters we've gotten in this line. I mean, I love my Saiyans, but this definitely has some shelf presence, and I know will photograph really well. I like the spikes on Dodoria's forearms, and you even get the fingernails painted in as well. Like I mentioned, the figure is very reminiscent of the Ginyu Force figures, with the armor having a nice glossy coat for the purple areas, but the rest of the armor being a flat, matte finish. The brown shoulder pieces are on hinges and don't detach, unless you force them, of course. So if that was a pet peeve of yours, like Captain Ginyu, not to worry with this release. Dodoria, like with most of this line, is, I would say, about 95% molded colored plastic. The pink, the purple, the dark blue, even the brown armor pieces, which are separate pieces laid over, are unpainted colored plastic, with the only paintwork being on the head sculpt, the nails, on his hands, and the brown areas on Dodoria's shoes or boots. With all of this large, bare plastic, I think shading would have worked really well and given this figure a lot more depth. Even still, the pinks and bright colors really pop, making Dodoria a very eye-catching piece for your display. Alright, so let's have a look at Dodoria's articulation, and like I mentioned earlier, if you have any of the Ginyu Force figures, it's pretty similar. They share kind of, similar design components. Dodoria's obviously has a different body shape, so he's not going to be as, agile as some of the other Ginyu Force figures, but for his size and his shape, mostly his shape, he still does move pretty well. So let's get started with his head. He doesn't have much of a neck, but we still get pretty good range of movement for his head going up, and Dodoria does move his head down about that much. You do get side to side rotation there, and there is a bit of tilt. There is, I guess you could say it is a neck joint, and that is a separate piece there. And if you move it enough, the head just came off, but if you move it enough, it's a bit stuck now, but it does move there. There we go. See? And that does help a little bit with the articulation of the head and neck. So let's pop his head back on. These shoulder armor pieces are on hinges. So when you have Zarbon moving his arms forward like that, they don't get in the way. Obviously, you have that kind of like cut there, but it does get out of the way. Just like the Ginyu Force figures or any other, I guess, armored Dragon Ball figure. Dodoria does have butterfly joints, and I'm glad that they sculpted the butterfly joint there to look like the body. And he does move his arms about that much forward in. His arms go up past 90 degrees, which is great. You get 360 there, rotation. At the shoulders, there is a swivel there at the upper bicep. Double jointed elbows, which goes past 90, which is great. Even with the big forearms there, you do get swivels and hinges at the wrist as well. So with Dodoria's torso, he gets pretty good ab crunch, as you can see here. It's pretty good, again, for his size and shape. But there is a ball joint in there. It's a hinge and a ball going in. And whilst you get that ab crunch, there is also a bit of, because there is a ball joint, there's supposed to be some, I guess, side to side, but it's really tight. And I really don't want to push it too far because I'm afraid it will break. And because of how flat Dodoria is at the front and the back, you're not going to get any range going, left and right. And it's the same for the lower waist as well. I mean, there is a little bit, you can see that there. But because, as I mentioned earlier in this video, that he's not perfectly, spherical, it hits that point in his armor there, and he just won't go any further. So that's as far as you'll get for waist rotation, unfortunately. Moving to his legs, he has the, the 2.0 articulation setup for the legs, so you do get, perfect back and front right there. He does do the splits pretty well. And that's a great thing about the 2.0 articulation. You get pretty good range in the legs still. There is an upper thigh cut. Double knees, but it's a little bit less than 90 degrees there. You get swivels at the ankle, toe articulation, and because Dodoria's feet are so flat, the ankle tilt there is actually pretty good. So standing him up straight isn't going to be a problem. So I mean, all in all, not the most agile of figures, but again, because of his shape, the way that Dodoria is designed, you still get some pretty good range of movement. So for accessories, Dodoria comes with enough to give you some display options, including 3 really well done head sculpts. Just look at the expressions on these. And the great thing is that you can remove Dodoria's left ear and attach an optional scouter. It plugs right in and sits there quite snugly. For hands, we get 2 fists, 2 relaxed open palm hands, a left-handed pointing finger or scouter operating finger, 2 hands that you can use as fighting hands or holding the 7-star Namekian Dragon Ball, which this release also comes packed in with, which, like the Dragon Ball packed in with Frieaz, is made from an opaque, I guess, pearly kind of orange plastic. So I can see why some people might want to skip this one. For display purposes, the Ginyu Force kind of fills that role of Frieza's henchman. Also, if you get Dodoria, you're gonna have to get Zarbon too. And I think Dodoria is more for Dragon Ball Z fans, more than anything. But for me personally, I just had to have this one in my collection. As I've probably said many times over, the Namek Saga is my favorite story arc in all of Dragon Ball, and introduces so many colorful characters to the series. And I guess I just have a nostalgic fondness for all those unique character designs from that period. I mean, you have all these different kind of alien races from all different parts of the universe with different abilities. You don't know where they're from, but they were all a part of Frieza's army. It was just, I guess, kind of my thing. The figure itself, yes, it does lack a bit of articulation in the waist, and I can't really fault it too much because that's the nature of Dodoria's design. I also think Dodoria would have really benefited from some shading, all those large open plastic armor areas, and just a bit more in terms of accessories would have been nice. But despite all that, this guy really has a lot of character. I love the sculpt work, the proportions are spot on, and I don't want to overuse that phrase, but this really is the plastic embodiment of that anime character. The bright colors, the unique design is what's going to make this figure stand out in your collection and will look amazing together with First Form Frieza and Zarbon when he comes out. And I can't wait to have those 3 together because that's the way I'll keep them on my shelf. The Galactic Space Tyrant and his 2 trusted enforcers. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the review. I talked a lot about unique character design, but who do you think in Dragon Ball? Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the review. I talked a lot about unique character design and probably used the word character and design way too much. But who do you think in the Dragon Ball series has the best character design? There we go again. And I'm purely talking aesthetically, nothing to do with their backstory or character arc. That title, of course, belongs to Vegeta. But yeah, let me know in the comments. I'll be really interested in knowing what you guys think. But I'll be seeing you all really soon. Next Wednesday, I'll be a guest on my mate Animated Heroes, Ace, on one of his live streams. So hopefully I'll be seeing you guys there. But take good care of yourselves, keep healthy, and as always, yoroshiku.